Geek Culture 101, your home for all things geek, where passion drives us every day of the week. From gaming quests to tech's next best, we're diving deep into a geek's best. Movies, anime, and pop culture dreams, we're the geeks who live in wild extremes. From gaming nights to sci-fi streams, Geek Culture 101, where we're proud to dream.
Welcome back to Geek Culture 101, your home for all things geek. Today, I want to take you on an epic journey as we explore one of my favorite game franchises, from its meteoric rise to its peak, gradual decline, and near disappearance from the gaming world. We'll examine what Ubisoft did right with this groundbreaking series, where they stumbled, and most importantly, whether there's any hope left for Prince of Persia. The origins, 1989 and the classic era. Our journey begins in 1989 with the release of the original Prince of Persia, a game that laid the foundation for the franchise. While many, like myself, associate the Prince of Persia with the Sands of Time trilogy, the first entry was actually developed for the Apple II by Jordan Mechner, a young game designer who had previously created a game called Karateka. Inspired by classic swashbuckling films and adventure games, Prince of Persia introduced revolutionary gameplay mechanics. One of its standout innovations was rotoscoping animation. Mechner recorded his brother performing various athletic moves and meticulously animated the character's movements based on that footage. The result was an incredibly fluid and realistic animation style that was unheard of at the time. The gameplay focused on precision platforming and strategic sword fights. Players just had 1 hour of real time to navigate torrentious dungeons, avoid deadly traps, and defeat the evil vizier to rescue the princess. Despite its initial slow sales, Prince of Persia gained a cult following and was later ported to various platforms, leading to 2 sequels. The first of which, Shadow and the Flame, in 1993. This expanded the story, introducing more fluid animation and featured richer settings. And then we had Prince of Persia 3D in 1999. An attempt to transition to 3D, but due to poor controls and camera issues, it failed to capture the magic of its predecessors. While I never played the original trilogy personally, I did try a remastered version years later. I appreciated how groundbreaking it must have been in its time, but the side-scrolling combat felt less engaging, probably because I was already accustomed to the Sands of Time trilogy's 3D gameplay mechanics. None of the early games achieved the widespread success of the original until 2003, when Ubisoft breathed new life into the franchise. The Sands of Time, a legendary rebirth. In 2003, Ubisoft rebooted Prince of Persia with the Sands of Time, bringing the series into a modern 3D format. This new game introduced an unnamed prince, an immersive Arabian-inspired world, and fluid parkour mechanics that were completely revolutionary at the time. Developed by Ubisoft Montreal, the game was originally meant to be a Prince of Persia 3D sequel, but developers decided to reimagine the franchise from the ground up. Sands of Time introduced a unique time rewind mechanic, allowing players to undo mistakes, something that set it apart from all other platformers of its era. This is where I personally came into the series. At the time, I hadn't been gaming much, but after receiving a birthday gift card, I picked up the Sands of Time and I was instantly blown away. The wall running mechanics, gymnastic combat, engaging narrative, all made for an unforgettable experience. Prince of Persia, The Warrior Within, a darker turn. Just a year later, Ubisoft released Prince of Persia Warrior Within, which took the franchise in a drastically different direction. The sequel was much darker, featuring a grittier aesthetic, bloodier combat, and a heavy metal soundtrack that polarized fans. The story saw the prince being hunted by the Dakar, a supernatural entity seeking to erase him from existence for meddling with time. This forced him to flee to a mysterious island where he searched for a way to escape his doomed fate. While the tone shifted divided players, the game's combat mechanics were widely praised. Many consider Warrior Within the best entry in the series, though I still personally prefer the Sands of Time's balance of story and gameplay. The Two Thrones, the trilogy's conclusion, and just a year later, in 2005, The Prince of Persia, The Two Thrones wrapped up the trilogy. The game returned to a setting reminiscent of the Sands of Time, with the prince returning to Babylon to find his kingdom under siege. The story introduced the Dark Prince, a corrupt alter ego with a different combat style, forcing players to switch between both personas. While The Two Thrones was well received, selling over 1.5 million copies in a month, it marked the last major entry in the Prince of Persia series for several years. Prince of Persia, a new experiment. Ubisoft attempted another reboot in 2008 with Prince of Persia, featuring a new prince, a cel-shaded art style, and a companion character in Elika. While it didn't directly connect to the Sands of Time trilogy, it had subtle nods to the older games. Despite solid reviews, it didn't achieve the commercial success of the previous trilogy, and Ubisoft quickly abandoned the iteration of the series. While I personally think it was better than a couple of the Sands of Time trilogy games, and it was really one of my favorite games of all time, it was definitely a huge departure from what we had seen in the franchise and what I believe fans were expecting. A return to the old formula. In response to fan demands, Ubisoft released Prince of Persia: The Forgotten Sands in 2010, a direct sequel to the Sands of Time trilogy. The game aimed to recapture the essence of the trilogy but fell short in several ways, from its lackluster storytelling, as the narrative felt uninspired compared to previous entries, simplified combat and level design. It lacked the polish and depth that made the trilogy great. And of course, it was overshadowed by Assassin's Creed, which was released in 2010 by Ubisoft, which they had fully committed to Assassin's Creed, and it seemed like they had forgotten the Sands of Time, and all just with the Prince was an afterthought. Despite decent reviews, it failed to leave a lasting impact, and the franchise went dormant once again. Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. A good game, but not what the fans wanted. After years of silence, Ubisoft finally released Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown in 2024. Rather than a full-fledged Sands of Time revival, The Lost Crown is a 2.5D Metroidvania-style platformer. To be fair, it's a great game. The movement feels fluid, the combat is responsive, and the world design is, well, pretty good. It's easily one of the best 2D Metroidvania games in recent years. But it's not what us longtime Prince of Persia fans have been waiting for. Fans have been craving a return to the acrobatic, time-bending, 3D adventure gameplay that defined the franchise. Instead, Lost Crown feels like Ubisoft testing the waters rather than committing to a full revival. So where did Ubisoft go wrong? Well, Assassin's Creed took over. Ubisoft originally developed Assassin's Creed as a Prince of Persia spin-off. As it evolved, they prioritized the game, leaving Prince of Persia behind. Of course, we also had the 2010 movie with all its backlash. The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal. It faced criticism for whitewashing and altering the source material damaging the franchise's reputation. And then, in 2020, we had a failed remake attempt. A Sands of Time remake was announced, but met with so much backlash due to outdated graphics. Ubisoft delayed it indefinitely, and since 2022, there haven't been any major updates to my knowledge. Is there any hope for the Prince? At this point, Ubisoft needs to make a choice. Will they finally give Prince of Persia the comeback it deserves with a proper AAA installment? Or will it remain in the shadows of Assassin's Creed? The fan demand is there. If the Sands of Time remake is ever finished and well received, it could be the first step towards a true revival. But I would even be happy with just a re-release of the old games on modern platforms. But what do you think? Is the Prince gone for good? Or will we see the proper return? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into all things geek culture. Until next time, stay geeky, my friends. Stay geeky.